And when they go in, they edit it. And you don't know, maybe you do know that there's a concurrent activity that's happening, and somebody has a long term plan for it. So, what was supposed to be a very serious and sincere and professional effort is actually subordinated to somebody else's political design. See, this happened to me, right? I was a newspaper editor. I was supposed to be at a college graduation ceremony, but I wasn't because I was the newspaper editor. And there was coverage of an event. And at the time frame for the coverage of that event, well, there was a protest. I covered the protest. It was portrayed in one manner. Somebody took it upon themselves to go into the area where they were actually going to produce and publish the print publication, and they edited it. They changed the information. So what ended up happening? Well, I got that paper and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is a terrible thing." There was supposed to be a protest of the president of the United States giving a commencement speech at a college graduation. A protest by people that were protesting American policy that resulted in the starvation deaths of millions of people. And it was reflected in the publication as if rather than protesting a president, they were attending a funk concert and awaiting the mothership to beam down. You don't think somebody would have hacked that. You don't think somebody, yes, they did. They went in and they changed it to make it look like instead of it being President Bill Clinton, it said President George Clinton. Why? Why would you want to hedge on that date for President George Clinton? You don't think it has to do with MK Ultra, do you? See, I don't really know much about MK Ultra. That's not something I personally have really had much interest in. I don't know much about Ebonics. Somebody else I knew, though, they knew something about Ebonics. Actually, they did their college term paper on Ebonics, right? Does Ebonics have anything to do with MK Ultra? Does Ebonics have anything to do with strategically hacking a print publication in order to put materially substantial misinformation, including things that could completely alter the characterization of individuals involved? Yes. Well, if you let that go on, how long do you have to let it go on before it ends up yielding? See, there was a big difference between 1995 and 1999 for a reason. Because by 1999, somebody would have been on one schedule. But if it's backdated to 1995, pause. Now, the accounting for or the consideration of that typo, the difference between physicon and pharmacon, it does have a long term implication, especially in connection with other things that are in this magazine, including the untold story. A contrast could hardly be greater. In the US Soviet honeymoon of the late 80s, the tense relationship between First Ladies Nancy Reagan and Isa Gorbachev was a constant source of embarrassment for their husbands. In today's less harmonious times, Hillary Clinton and Naina Yeltsin seem to have hit it off. Helen Boldrayev Semler reports on a truly productive friendship. This article discusses a visit by then First Lady Hillary Clinton to Russia. The first thing it discusses is a request, presumably, of the First Lady of Russia for assistance in acquisition of dental supplies. Now, this was happening during a time frame when there was an effort to have consideration made for a comprehensive universal health care proposal that was understood to be a primary political project being promulgated by the then First Lady Hillary Clinton. Now, if you're a young woman that's starting off her obligations to the American government, and it's anticipated that you're going to be spending 25 years being so obligated, I contend there is a very substantial difference to be entered into a database connected to designations associated with work involving mathematics and physics, including education concerning mathematics and physics, than it is a database implying a specific kind of relationship with the pharmaceutical sector. And that may be why I personally have not received my pension. Right? Oh, it's a record with the IRS. The IRS says that I have some sort of consideration of taxable income. If you are a woman pensioner in Russia and you have been either eligible for receipt of a pension since 1995, or you were one of those young women that was in the new Russia or the Ukraine or the other countries, the former Soviet Union, and you were looking at what your options were as a professional, then please know your struggles concerning what somebody else might consider to be adequate or acceptable compensation are not isolated to your experience. I, for one, have serious problems with the pension system in the United States, specifically and especially in consideration of mischaracterization of assets and quantification of assets associated with its relationship to portfolios that include investments in other countries. My name's Charity Krause. I was born in Virginia, the United States of America. I had hoped to study physics. Maybe one day, if Miss Soboleva is still around, we can talk as professionals.